change the time? Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, just don't put any cash on it, okay?
Good evening. Welcome to the April 4th City of Oldsmar Council meeting. It is 7 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us. Our invocation and our pledge allegiance to the flag will be led by our City Attorney, Tom Trask. Please rise.
Our Heavenly Father, as the citizens of the city of Oldsmar meet together to address our local concerns and opportunities, we give thanks to you for the bounty that we enjoy in all aspects of our community life. We ask for your inspiration to strive for excellence in our endeavors to serve the public. Grant us peace in our world and harmony between all people to your greater glory. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. I have a quick announcement I'd like to share with everyone. First of all, my sister and my brother-in-law, Carol, and my brother-in-law, Bill, are here from Buffalo, New York. Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming. All right, with that, I would like to state please refrain from any personal attacks before we get started this evening towards any city charter official, city employees, or any of the council members. We are a team of one. We are all working together to improve our city. Please direct all your comments to me, the mayor, and with that, I would like to start the swearing in of our new city clerk by our city attorney, Tom Trask.
Okay, Kristen. So, why don't I hold, can Sergio want to come up and hold the Bible for you?
Yeah, yay. Good job, guys.
I. Okay, and if you could raise your right hand and put your left hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I, Kristen Garcia,
I, Kristen Garcia,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and of the United States of America,
and being a charter official
and being a charter official
of the city of Oldsmar,
of the city of Oldsmar,
and a recipient of public funds,
and a recipient of public funds,
as such officer,
do
hereby solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Florida
and the state of Florida
and the city charter
and the city charter
of the city of Oldsmar.
of the city of Oldsmar.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So excited that my family and I are here, and I'm the new city clerk of Oldsmar. Very excited.
When you want to introduce your family?
Yes, so this is my husband, Sergio Garcia. This is my son, Sergio Robert Garcia, and my daughter, Carolina Garcia.
Smile. Big smile. Oh.
Right here, buddy.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Guys?
Good job, Sergio. Good job, Carolina. Good job.
Oh my gosh, they're so cute.
Thank you, Tom. Great job. You're welcome, Mayor. All right, with that, we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. Congratulations. And the next item on our agenda is our Oldsmar Public Open Forum. Each speaker will be recognized once and will be limited to a 5-minute presentation on any subject, but items 8, 9, and 10 on the agenda, those, at that time, you'll be able to speak on those items. Please state your name and your address for the record. The open forum will conclude at 7:30 p.m. Is there anybody on this side that would like to speak to the council? Come on up. Come on up, Mayor.
Eric Seidel, 114 Shore Drive Place in beautiful Oldsmar, Florida. I was going to give you a really hard time, Mayor, but after I heard your instructions about not doing so at the beginning of this, I'm just not going to do it. Instead, I'm going to pick on Al. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, congratulations, Madam Clerk. It's exciting to have another energetic clerk here. And I'm just going to mention this. Everybody up there is getting younger and younger. You notice that? Younger clerk. Not that Ann was old or anything. She could have gone for another 20, I'm sure, but she didn't want to. She was smart. Hey, I just want to make a point of thanking our chamber because I thought the event they just put on was terrific. A lot of people out there having a good time, coming together. The council was out there and our staff out there who puts all the extra work in to make sure things are clean and all done right. I just think that they deserve the credit that they don't get all the time. They certainly deserve the funding they get because, listen, this is the work they do for us as a city. They do great work. So that's all. Just wanted to congratulate them on another great year. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, anybody on this side of the room again? No one? Anybody on this side? Come on up.
Hi, my name is James Hummel, 132 Arlington Street. I had the opportunity to go to Dunedin and help them set up for the Dunedin Highlander Games. And I mentioned this at the last meeting, but when I was leaving the Oldsmar days, people asked me what's going on with Shore Drive. So I'm going to read this very quickly. Florida statute. No public person, elected official, organization shall have jurisdiction, power to change, override any form of local or state laws or ordinances. Any such action must be addressed, discussed, voted on. Any such action like spray painting on buildings, trees, or ground is illegal. Actions can result in fines, suspensions. Any organized party or profit organization cannot at any time spray or deface grounds, trees, buildings. You must use flags, arrows, or white chalk that can be removed easily. At the Dunedin Highlander Games, there were flags, there were arrows, there were people there to direct. The gentleman that was the timer, Chad, said that you spray paint, you will not work for me. Clearwater, Dunedin, and Tampa do not allow spray painting of any kind on any road. Only elected public officials are allowed to spray directions or numbers on streets. An ordinance needs to be in place so no such events happen. We have great projects that are on the agenda. We have the city hall going up. We have these apartments going up. If we don't have codes and ordinances, it's going to make it hard for this council who's working very hard to make this city better. And I'm glad that the elected officials came to the Oldsmar days. I had a lot of public comment that was positive. Thank you for attending, and let's try and fix this on Shore Drive with all those arrows. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Come on up, David.
David Llewellyn, 212 Bengal Circle. Speaking of Shore Drive East and West and Park Boulevard and a number of other streets that we have, they are the definition of the beauty of the city of Oldsmar. There are probably some streets on the other side of town that I don't know about that are equally important. But what we need to do is to have a extraordinary approval of projects that would impact the beauty of Shore Drive, Bayview, Lafayette. They're just really beautiful streets, setback, gorgeous lawns. And if we start now with this advancing of building to every last iota that we can build, we're going to one day wake up and look and say, whatever happened to that beautiful city? Now it's just a city of big houses on little tiny lots and really not good looking houses at that. We do have a number of examples already, in addition to which a couple of meetings ago, we were supposed to get a person from the building department to enforce the trailer and boat law on properties. Sometimes you're driving up and down Shore Drive and you don't know if you're on Shore Drive or if you're on the entrance to the boat ramp. We've got to do something to maintain these streets. These State Street one day will be a very important street as well, God willing. But we have Shore Drive now, and if we don't protect it, we're going to lose it. So let's try. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council? All right, with that, I'm going to close the Oldsmar Public Open Forum. Our next item on the agenda is our community minute, which will be read by our new city clerk, Kristen Garcia.
Community Minute. The Oldsmar Cup race will be this Saturday, April 8th at Tampa Bay Downs. Oldsmar residents with a photo ID and Oldsmar address can enjoy free general admission to Tampa Bay Downs and experience the winner's circle following the annual running of the Oldsmar Cup race. The first post time on race day is approximately 12:25 p.m. The cup race time will be announced at the track. Chalk the Park will be on Saturday, April 15th at 10 a.m. at Ari Olds Park. Chalk the Park is a family-friendly morning that celebrates creativity and encourages everyone to channel their inner artist. Grab a box of chalk and let your imagination run wild as you create stunning, colorful masterpieces on the sidewalk. And annual Recycling Day will be on Friday, April 21st. From 8 a.m. to noon at Oldsmar Sports Complex. It's a free event for residents and businesses. There is a limit of 5 boxes for paper shredding and an unlimited number for electronics and medications. Please enter via the Tampa Road entry.
Great job. Wonderful. All right, next item on our agenda is approval of additional new agenda items 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13. I need a motion to approve. I have a motion. How about a second?
Second?
Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the Community Redevelopment Agency. Councilmember Buckman, do you have anything to disclose?
Thank you, Mayor. I've filed my my disclosure form with the clerk already, disclosing that my home does live in the CRA.
Okay. Tom, do you want to take this item?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So Mayor, item number 1 under community redevelopment is agenda item adopt resolution 2023-04 designated you as the chair and Vice Mayor Andrew Knapp as the vice chair of the Community Redevelopment Agency. This is a post-election housekeeping item as well as for the chairperson and as the vice chairperson. To conform with Florida Statute Chapter 163, city staff is recommending that you, Mayor, act as chair and the vice mayor, Andrew Knapp. I'm going to go ahead and read that resolution by title only. Resolution 2023-04, resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, designating the chair and vice chair of the Community Redevelopment Agency pursuant to Section 163.356, paren 3, paren C, Florida statutes, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was a reading of Resolution 2023-04 by title only.
Thank you very much. I need a motion to approve.
So move.
A motion, how about a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is our consent docket, and this will be read by our new city clerk, Kristen Garcia.
Consent docket. Item 2, approve minutes of the March 21st, 2023 council meeting. Item 3, award the purchase of a Toro Field Pro to Wesco Turf under the same pricing, terms, and conditions of Sourcewell contract number 031121, parentheses, CC23-004.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of proclamation for the Wayland Mayor's Challenge Water Conservation, and I will take care of that. This is from the Office of the Mayor, Oldsmar, Florida's proclamation, and I'll read this. Whereas the city of Oldsmar, the region of Tampa Bay, and the state of Florida continue to explore ways to manage residential consumption of water and power to inspire its residents to care for our natural resources. And whereas the Southwest Florida Management District wants to encourage water conservation to ensure the sustainability of current and future water supply in the region. And whereas cities can engage in efforts to inspire their own communities as well as their neighboring cities to become better environmental stewards. And whereas the 2023 Wayland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation is a healthy, nonprofit competition for cleaner communities and promoting water use and pollution reduction between our cities. And whereas, with this encouragement of their mayors, residents may register their participation in their city's challenge online by making simple pledges to decrease their water use and to reduce pollution for a period of 1 year, thereby assisting their cities to apply state and federal water conservation strategies to target mandated reductions. Now, therefore, I, Dan Saraki, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 1st through April 30th of 2023 as Water Conservation Month in the City of Oldsmar and call upon all residents to join me in taking an online pledge to conserve our natural resources dated today, April 4th, 2023. And Ashley, I'm going to present this to you. There you go. Thank you for all you do.
Deb knows.
Thank you, Deb. Do you want to just explain how they do it online real quick for me? Sure. You need the microphone, you want to do that? Because I was talking to Kristen.
Yes, so it's really easy. You just go to mywaterpledge.com, and then when you put it in, you just choose the city of Oldsmar. You just type it in, and it'll pop down on the boat. And then as you go through, it'll just ask a series of questions of things like that you would pledge to do. You don't have to pledge to do all the things. It's stuff like, you know, wash your car a little bit less, take a little bit shorter showers, things like that. And then at the end, it'll calculate how much water that you're gonna save through the year just by making these small little changes. And we'll calculate for the whole city of Oldsmar, we'll get a number of citywide. Also, we go into a nationwide challenge. So if we're in the top 10 cities of have pledges by population size, then we can also win additional prizes. You can also win prizes just by going on there. So,
That's cool. Yeah.
and if you know a nonprofit can win. You can vote for a nonprofit of your choice to go into the draw for a new EV vehicle. So that's always a nice thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Great
Ashley.
explanation. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is Arbor Day proclamation. Would you want to handle that, Felicia Donnelly, for me, please?
Item number 5 is a presentation on the Arbor Day proclamation proclaiming April 28th as Arbor Day in the city of Oldsmar. Councilmember Graber?
Thank you. We're good? Thanks, Tom.
You got it.
Tom knows. He can tell by looking at it.
I'm presenting this to Alexis. I know he's nervous. Don't be. It's just a proclamation. We're good. Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. They increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they're planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Councilmember Steve Graber, on behalf of Dan Saraki, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the City of Oldsmar. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations, dated this 4th day of April, 2023. Alexis, please join me. You're going to present, is that correct?
Hearts.
Okay, Deb's about to move us over where she wants us.
That takes a lot of pictures.
Again, Alexis Wells, Assistant Director, Leisure Services. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity this evening to present a little demonstration, a little actual display on information on Arbor Day.
Alexis?
First of all, I am a certified arborist, and I have been an arborist since 2005. And I was lucky enough to study under some great names. Either you may not know the names, but Dr. Ed Gilman from University of Florida was one of the great.
Sorry, I said go Gators.
One of the most noteworthy professors in arboriculture in our area. Also, Norm Easy, who is the president of the Florida chapter of ISA. And another gentleman is Joe Samnick. Joe is one of the most noteworthy names in tree law in this Florida area. Joe has presided over 5,000 tree law cases over the past 35 years. So these are just some of the names that I've been able to study under to help shape my culture on trees. So Arbor Day, as I said, is a day to celebrate trees. you don't think about celebrating trees, but as mentioned in the proclamation, there are a lot of benefits to trees. But it's celebrated mostly in the springtime, and it helps bring people together. Even though it's in the springtime for the most of the celebration, there are some places where you cannot because of the climate. You know, if you're in North Dakota, I don't think you'd be able to really celebrate Arbor Day because you probably still have snow on the ground. So, different times of the year, you probably have to make the change. It was originated in Nebraska by J. Sterling Morton, who was a Nebraska news editor and also a politician. He served on President Grover Cleveland's as the Secretary of Agriculture while he was, and that's when he grew into this arboriculture. So the first Arbor Day was actually on April 10th, 1872. And in doing so, in having that presentation, they made it a competition. They had something like who can plant the most trees. So on the first day, as it states there, over 1 million trees were planted in Nebraska.
Wow.
Okay. And we thought Nebraska was only known for corn.
That's true.
Okay. So by 1920, over, that says 45, so a lot of the states, most of the states in the U.S. were already celebrating Arbor Day. And in 1972, it became the foundation was formed in honor of the 100th year of Arbor Day celebration. So President Theodore Roosevelt himself had made a proclamation, and in it he emphasized the importance of trees. So trees have been important to us for quite some time, but the president to say that it is important makes it even a little bit more so. And the trees are beneficial in many ways to both people, wildlife, and especially the environment. And there's just some of the benefits. Provides shade. It's a haven for birds and animals. Property value increases. We get cleaner air. It's beautiful to look at, especially if, we don't see it as much down here in Florida, but as you go further north, you get the color change in the fall. And it also gives us a sense of peace and relaxation when most of us would much rather walk around trees than asphalt or concrete. So now that brings me to another point, Tree City USA. Okay, Tree City USA is a program under the Arbor Day Foundation. And the city of Oldsmar, okay, we have been a Tree City USA for 23 years. We just got the award for 2022 just a few months ago. So what that does, it tells the community that we value trees. Okay. We also have the program that illustrates the value, that tells what the value of those trees are, and also the benefits. So the city has done. We are doing our part to be able to show. Now those little plaques, as you know, if you look at it, it doesn't show 23 up there because some reason we couldn't find the original ones. But those little plaques, we get those every year when we submit the documentation to show the value that what we have, trees we have planted, based on the community, the number of residents in the community. There's a certain point value, and we have maintained that point value for the past 23 years. So the value to the trees, they serve a purpose in the community. Many people enjoy the shade, as I mentioned earlier, but they're also a green infrastructure that pays back in many ways. So trees are vital to health and the community. They provide clean air, clean water, and psychological well-being. They're a legacy. The trees we plant today, our children can still enjoy for many years down the road. The average tree, especially if you're looking at an oak tree, is going to live for over 40 years. So given that time frame, okay, the daughter that was here, okay, will be able to enjoy those trees for the years down the road. They have a positive impact on our community, on a business. Okay, most people would much prefer to be around a business that has trees. While they're there enjoying that, they will spend more money. So businesses will grow from that endeavor. So just to sum that this up, trees are a good way for community and budget. Okay. So research suggests that human beings they have an innate preference for natural settings. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, much prefer to be around trees as opposed to asphalt and concrete. Increased employee productivity, faster hospital recoveries, less crime, and an overall reduction in stress and activity. Again, those are just some of the benefits of trees. They increase property value. One large tree can add up to 10% of the market value of a residential real estate. Landscaping with trees can significantly increase property values. Just to give you an example, a large tree was removed from a property that was valued over $164,000. Okay. In a court case, it was settled for over $15,000 because of the removal of that tree. So that's about 9% of the value. That tells you how much trees are worth into our community. Okay. They provide energy savings and contribute towards community health by filtering water and air through cooling. Okay. 100 trees can remove over 25 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere every year. Okay. They remove also 305 pounds of pollutants every year. And if you put that in a monetary value, that's about $2,000 in emission credits that can be earned back to you. So again, that's the value of trees. Shaded parking lots are more important to human health and improvement quality. By shaded parking lots, it helps keep the interior of cars cool, helps keep the gas in the tanks cool, and also by doing so, less volatile compounds are released into the air. So research showed that because of that last statement made by the shaded trees, that the EPA has adopted standard tree shading in the Midwest. If the EPA can adopt that for the Midwest, think about what it can do for Florida, who gets more sun than most other states in the country.
That's true.
Okay. So the value. If you take 100 trees over a 40-year period of caring for those trees, okay, probably going to cost about $89,000 in total care. But what it saves in water, pollutants, what it helps in the benefits, okay, $161,000 is what it saves. So you have a net payoff of $72,000. Again, the value of the tree. So the Tree City USA program, that's what it's doing for that's what it's doing for the city of Oldsmar. By being part of that program, we are showing that we can, that we are saving. Okay, we are doing everything we can to keep the Tree City program going. We are using, we got help from the from the technicians. Okay, excuse me. So Tree City is a national program sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation in cooperation with the USDA Forest Service and National Association of State Foresters. It provides direction, assistance, attention, and recognition to urban and community forestry programs. The long-standing program has a big impact and huge network of associates. There are 34,000 cities across the country that are Tree City USA. So it's a, can say a brotherhood of trees, a sisterhood of cities. Okay, we have a lot, so we have a lot to draw on. So it's, just in our neck of the woods, communities north, south, and east of us of all Tree City USA, whether we go west of Clearwater, north of Tarpon Springs, east of Tampa, or south, they're all, so we're all in the same program working together. So what does it mean for us, the benefits? Okay. Direction on how to manage our trees. That's what it does for us. We have, just recently I was in Gainesville, okay, just studying the 3-year program on how to manage our tree canopy. It's a program that will probably run a full 20 years once we get it in place, but 20 years worth of trees management is a long-term benefit for the city of Oldsmar. Okay. It also provides technical advice. I can call on anyone at any time to find out, what it is that's going to help, what we can do to help maintain our tree canopy within the city. So in closing, okay, sorry. It provides a quality of life for the public. Okay, it influences and it's desired. What it does, it gives us pride. We have a great sense of pride when we say we are a Tree City USA community. So these value, the program, the benefits, and the standards, okay, those all amount to a great future for the city of Oldsmar. Okay, and David Henry Thoreau, a town is saved not by the righteous men in it, but by the woods, not by the woods, okay, that's surrounded. Now, the city of Oldsmar, within its 10 square miles, okay, we are lucky enough to have over 40% of that 10 square miles is wooded, forested area. Okay, no other community around can have that. And we can be proud of that, what we've accomplished. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for staff? Yes,
Yeah,
Councilor
well-
Gannon?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. When you were giving that presentation, I was thinking to myself, always looking for the shady parking spot. Never thinking like, oh, I'm glad that tree is there. I'm always thinking about the shade, right? But I wanted to point out that recently the city had done some tree work that I was really appreciative of. One of our residents mentioned Lafayette Boulevard. There was extensive, and I know palm trees are shrubs, not trees. Is that true, Alexis?
It's in the grass family, and
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, I know it's a technicality, but when I see all those palm trees on Lafayette Boulevard now looking a lot more cleaned up and a lot more beautiful, I felt a lot of pride, and I know this coming storm season, it will hopefully have, fewer tree pieces
Correct,
everywhere
yes.
when we experience some of those high winds and reduce the workload on staff and cleanup and the debris removal following those storms. And then along State Street, there was some recent substantial pruning, like the nice kind of pruning of a lot of the crepe myrtles lining State Street, and they look really beautiful. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago or so when I had emailed our city manager thanking her for whatever action was taken to make that happen, because they were covered in a lot of Spanish moss and they were all looking really heavy, and some were obstructing the street signs in some of the intersections along State Street. So I was really grateful for that. But thank you for that informative
welcome.
presentation. I learned something.
Anyone else? No? Anyone else? Nope. I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
When I first got on council, Mayor Beavis, we planted a tree at Veterans Park. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Can we do something like that for Arbor Day, maybe? Plant a tree somewhere, the council, all of us? We had shovels and the hole was dug by the city staff, of course. When we got there, we put the tree
stood by a
in.
tree.
Yeah. We put the tree and then we filled it in and it was.
I remember when we did that at Veterans Park. Yeah.
Yeah,
We took a picture after the Veterans.
And it was Linda.
Yeah.
Yes.
That kind will be done. We have 15 trees on order to be planted around the city on Arbor Day. Well, or before Arbor Day, but we do have trees.
So maybe we could do that. Okay, that'd be wonderful. Thank you so much. Great
Thanks,
job.
Alexis.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
Thank you, Alexis. That was wonderful. Item number 6 is a presentation of the City of Oldsmar Satisfaction Survey. So the City of Oldsmar conducted its first annual satisfaction survey online from January 15th to March 1st, 2023. I would like to invite Deb Vitrelli to give a presentation with the results.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I will be presenting to you a brief overview of the findings from the city's first satisfaction survey. You will find the detailed report as part of your council packet that provides you with further information. The Community Satisfaction Survey was conducted between January 15th and March 1st. The survey was available online. Paper copies were available at the library, City Hall, and the Cypress Forest Recreation Center. Additionally, it was promoted in the Experience Oldsmar magazine and via the city's social media platforms. The purpose was to gather information about the quality of services and amenities available in Oldsmar. The survey also served to identify the most important priorities for the coming year and into the future. The survey garnered 194 responses and featured 29 questions. Results indicated a 95% confidence interval with a margin of error of 7%. The majority of responses are ages 51 to 70 at 44.3% and 21.1% ages 36 to 50. Please notice the chart presented is information from the 2020 census. You will notice the survey results do not exactly match the census data, but they are not that far off because the age categories in the survey are a little different. As you can see, the survey responses seem to be well represented from across the Oldsmar community. From the responses, 32.5% have lived in Oldsmar for more than 20 years. 65.5% expected to be living in Oldsmar in the next 5 years. 79.9% indicated that they currently own their home, and 59.8% indicated they do not have children under the age of 18 living in their home. When asked how they stay informed about city issues, the top platform was the city's website, followed by the Experience Oldsmar magazine. Facebook was indicated to be the top social media platform for information. Quality of life ranked high, with 83% very satisfied or satisfied. 77.4% were very likely or likely to recommend living or working in Oldsmar to others. As a place to retire, the city received 74.7% as very satisfied or satisfied. As a place to live, Oldsmar received 89.2% as very satisfied or satisfied. As a place to work, the city received 61.9% as very satisfied or satisfied. Sorry about that. And as a place to visit, Oldsmar received 50.5% as very satisfied or satisfied. With characteristics, surveyors ranked the flow of traffic and congestion 42.8% as very satisfied or satisfied. In regards to access to retail, dining, and entertainment, 68% were very satisfied or satisfied. 76.3% were very satisfied or satisfied with the overall reputation of Oldsmar. 80.9% felt the cleanliness of the community was very satisfied or satisfied. In regards to safety, 78.8% were very satisfied or satisfied. When asked to provide additional information pertaining to the quality of life, traffic was one of the main topics of concern, mentioned 39 times. A great place to live was mentioned 17 times, and downtown was mentioned 15 times. Pertaining to amenities, 42.8% very often or often frequent the Oldsmar Trail. City parks were frequented 62.9% very often or often, and 30.5% frequent the city library very often or often. The sports complex was frequented 12.9% very often or often, and 11.9% frequent the Cypress Forest Recreation Center very often or often. Overall, 70% were very satisfied or satisfied with the quality of amenities, and 70.9% were very satisfied or satisfied with the quality of services. With city services, 82% were very satisfied or satisfied with fire services, 79.4% were very satisfied or satisfied with emergency management and preparedness, 73.2% were very satisfied or satisfied with the library. 75.4% were very satisfied or satisfied with parks, trails, and preserves. 67.5% were very satisfied or satisfied with recreation opportunities. 54.6% were very satisfied or satisfied with the Oldsmar Sports Complex, and 62.3% were very satisfied or satisfied with special events. 72.3% were very satisfied or satisfied with water and wastewater utilities. 52.7% were very satisfied or satisfied with maintenance of streets and sidewalks, and 59.2% were very satisfied or satisfied with trash and recycling. 72.7% were very satisfied or satisfied with general administration. 56.2% were very satisfied or satisfied with code enforcement, as well as with planning. When asked what are the 3 greatest strengths in the city of Oldsmar, parks were mentioned 62 times and one of the main topics. Location was mentioned 42 times, and small town feel was mentioned 23 times. When asked, what does success look like in the city's future? Downtown was mentioned 49 times and one of the main topics. Small town was mentioned 29 times, and restaurants were mentioned 17 times. When asked what is the most important issue the city faces today, downtown was mentioned 24 times and one of the main topics. Development was mentioned 16 times, and traffic was mentioned 15 times. In regards to the overall direction the city is taking, 54.7% were very satisfied or satisfied with the overall direction. Participants were asked if they had contacted the city in the past 6 months and what methods were used. With levels of satisfaction, 75.3% found city employees knowledgeable, and 74% found city employees courteous and respectful. Sorry about that. When it comes to access to information about city services, 81% were very satisfied or satisfied. Although this is the first survey, the city plans to make this an annual occurrence to allow us to evaluate trends in our community. I'm very thankful to present this presentation to you tonight for this important data as well. This information will be announced on our social media and shared on our website as well this week. And before I close, I'd like to give a special thanks to Jordan Lance, Executive Assistant to the City Manager's Office, on the wonderful job she did pulling the survey data to provide this presentation and the final report. So thank you for listening to this presentation tonight.
Thank you, Deb. Great job. Any questions for staff? Councilmember Knapp?
Quick one. Do you know by chance how many non-online submissions you got for the
Paper,
survey?
you mean?
Yeah. Rough
No.
guess?
I'll direct.
I'm sure it's probably not a lot, but
Yeah, if
think
I
we got
can
a few.
recall, it was like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It was no more than 5, though.
all right.
We try to cover every angle.
Yeah, that's good, because I mean, some people may not see it online and then be able to respond, so if they're at the library and passing, you know, there might be some opportunity there for a little bit more in the future, but kind of what I was expecting, so, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Great job, Deb.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Wonderful. And I'm glad we're doing it every year. I think that's wonderful. Yes.
Lisa, will this be posted on, the presentation will be on the website, I hope?
It will be, it can be.
It's on Zen City. The report, the full report is on Zen City right now.
Oh,
and I'll put it
cool.
on the website tomorrow.
Yeah, I thought that the whole presentation was really easy to read and understand. I liked the colors, how it just, the graphics made a lot of sense to me. It was just really easy to read all of the information collected. So thank you to Jordan for putting this together. This is perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. The next item, item number 7, is ratify the reappointment of Paula Saraki as board-appointed trustee of the firefighter pension board. The firefighter pension board consists of 5 trustees. 2 are elected by firefighters in the pension plan, 2 are appointed by the city, and 1 is appointed by the board. Paula Saraki is a current board-appointed trustee. The board voted unanimously to reappoint her to her position. The city council has the administrative task of ratifying her appointment. The recommended motion is to ratify appointment of Paula Saraki as board-appointed trustee of the firefighter pension board.
Welcome, Paula. Does anybody have any questions for Paula?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you like serving on the board? What kind of,
I
mean,
do.
what's your experience
Yeah,
been?
it's very interesting, and I mean, even though there's a lot to read and go over, it's been, like I said, a good learning experience, and the staff is very helpful in explaining things so I can understand it.
I feel like it's one of our city's more mysterious boards.
Yeah.
What is the firefighter pension board?
Anyone
Yeah,
else?
I actually enjoy it very much.
Good. And Paula and I just got back this afternoon. We were in Tallahassee. It was the first time she was ever there. And we visited the Capitol. We got to meet Ed Hooper. And we had a great day.
Yeah, it was neat. We were sitting in the Senate Hall gallery, and they actually announced our name and, announced, Dan Saraki, the mayor, and me, the first lady. I got to do my little wave.
Yeah, we were in the House. We were
Oh,
up
the House,
on the
yes.
second level in the House, and they announced us. Adam Anderson, our House representative for the state, announced us. So it was really a unique trip. So I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
A motion and a second.
All right.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
for your
much.
service.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is our city attorney, Tom Trask.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 8 is a public hearing, the second public hearing for the development agreement with Devon Ash Rushnell LLC for the development of the city-owned property adjacent to the library. The first public hearing on this development agreement was conducted on March 21st, 2023. There have been no changes to the development agreement since the first public hearing. After the development agreement is approved tonight, if it is, it will be recorded in the public records and become effective. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any, but it's ready for your consideration.
All right, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak on this item, please come up now, raise your hand. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber? Yes. Councilmember Buckman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Second reading of development agreement with Devon S. Rushnell LLC for development of city-owned property adjacent to the library passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Wonderful. Now, I did talk to Felicia real quick, and she said the groundbreaking, if I'm not mistaken, will be February in 2024. Is that correct, or maybe sooner?
No?
No?
No.
It's kind of hard to predict.
I know.
Very hard to predict.
I'm excited for you, though. I really am. It's a great project for our city. I'm just really excited.
May I have the
Yep,
moment to
sure, go
clarify
ahead.
the
Yes.
date? So the date is attached to the purchase and sale agreement, which has an 18-month time frame before the expiration of that agreement. So that agreement was signed in August of '22, so 18 months would be in February of '24.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. Thank you, guys. All right, Tom, item number 9.
Yeah, so item number 9 is a public hearing for the second reading of ordinance 2023-01. I'll read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2023-01, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending Article 4, use of golf carts upon city streets, of Chapter 66 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oldsmar, in Section 66-100, to provide that holding or possession of a valid driver's license is not needed for a person to operate a golf cart, deleting Section 66-105 and renumbering subsequent sections, amending Section 66-105, previously Section 66-106, to provide for optional registration of golf carts with the city, amending Section 66-108, previously Section 66-109, to provide for an updated reference to Florida statutes for enforcement provisions of golf cart use, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. That was the second final reading of ordinance 2023-01 by title only. There have been no changes since the first reading that was conducted on March 21st, 2023.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item for or against? Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor, roll call. Thank you.
Councilmember Graber,
Yes.
Councilmember Buckman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Saraki.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-01, amending the Code of Ordinances to provide that holding or possession of a valid driver's license is not needed for a person to operate a golf cart, to provide for optional registration of golf carts of the city, and to provide for an updated reference to Florida statutes for enforcement of golf cart use is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Great job. Thank you so much. Item number 10.
Mayor, Commissioners, council members, this is a public hearing for the first reading of ordinance 2023-03, amending section 2.1 of Article 2 definitions of Part 3 of the city's Land Development Code to revise the definition of portable sign. I'll read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending section 2.1 of Article 2 definitions of Part 3 of the city's Land Development Code to revise the definition of portable sign, making related findings, providing for codifications, severability, and for an effective date. Some background on this: the city code, which was adopted a number of years ago, has a definition for portable sign. A similar definition of portable sign was found to be unconstitutional in the case of LaCroix versus the town of Fort Myers Beach. This is basically an action to revise our current definition of portable sign so that we don't have to address that particular issue in a lawsuit if it comes. There is, since the city has adopted the sign code, has never cited any person for carrying a sign as a means of engaging in First Amendment rights, and the city is committed never to do so. This particular ordinance you have in your packet doesn't necessarily reflect the changes, so I've handed it out tonight so that you see in red. For some reason or another, when the ordinance was printed in the packet, it does not show the changes, but I wanted to go over those for the public who may be reading this online or watching online. So what we did was, in the definition of portable sign, we deleted the words "or carried by a person," and we added a sentence to the bottom of the definition. That sentence provides, for purposes of this chapter, a sign not bearing a commercial message which is carried by a person, whether worn or held by hand, shall not be considered a portable sign, and such signs shall be permitted to be carried in any location such person is otherwise lawfully allowed to be present, including on city sidewalks and parks. Those are the changes to that definition, and it is a public hearing, and it requires the public have an opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak for or against this item? Please come up. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion, please.
Motion to approve?
Second? I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber,
Yes.
Councilmember Buckman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Saraki.
Yes.
The first reading of ordinance 2023-03, amending section 2.1 of Article 2, definitions of Part 3 of the city's Land Development Code to revise the definition of portable sign passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Great job. Thank you so much. Next item on our agenda is 11, and that will be done by our city manager, Felicia Donnelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Consider adoption of Pinellas County Vulnerability Assessment. To better understand the risk associated with sea level rise and storm surge, Pinellas County completed a phase 1 of a vulnerability assessment and analyzed the county's vulnerabilities to 3 sea level projections for the years 2040, 27, and 2100. Lisa Foster, the Pinellas County Floodplain Administrator, will provide a brief summary of the key findings of the study, overview of the data, and potential benefits and options for applying available data in Oldsmar. I do have a change to the recommended motion, and so if desired by council after hearing the presentation from Lisa Foster, if the council so desires, to direct the city attorney to draft a resolution to adopt the Pinellas County Vulnerability Assessment as a planning tool. So thank you, and thank you for coming tonight, Lisa.
Thank you all for having me tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so Pinellas County kicked off a vulnerability assessment back in 2018. Okay, we'll start here, that's fine.
It's pretty touchy, that little
It
thing
is
is,
touchy.
it's touchy.
So in 2018, the county kicked off their vulnerability assessment study. It looked at, like Felicia said, sea level rise scenarios for several time horizons and also storm surge overlaid on top of that. I wanted to first talk to you about the different types of flooding, though, that you have here in Oldsmar. And this is actually countywide, but you have all the types of flooding here in Oldsmar. So we have riverine flooding, localized urban flooding, and then we have our coastal flooding. And now we're seeing compound flooding as well. So your riverine precipitation-based flooding occurs with a lot of rainfall. Sometimes the rain can't get out as quickly as it's coming down, and you see it kind of back up from those stormwater pipes and things like that. That's your urban flooding, and those are from those really heavy, intense, quick storms. The flooding that happens for days and days and days, and then it comes down Brooker Creek and from the upper parts of watersheds, that stages up the rivers and then the wetlands and things, and then they tend to overflow because of the timing. So it's just a lot of rain over a long period of time, and eventually there's just nowhere for the water to go until it eventually gets out. Then we have the tidal flooding, and we're seeing the blue sky flooding now, which is when we have these king tides and you see some of the roads get inundated because the water will either come over berms or back up the stormwater pipes and things like that. And then we also have storm surge, which everybody's very familiar with, from tropical storms all the way up to the hurricanes. And the compound flooding would be, for example, if we have a king tide at the same time that we have a very intense urban rainfall and flooding event. So that water really can't get out because there's nowhere for it to go because the tide is so high. So just, there are different types of models for those different types of floodplain mapping. So I just wanted to make it clear, like your rainfall flood maps are going to be different from your coastal flood maps. So this is up in North County. It's not here in Oldsmar, but this is just a picture of what we're already seeing with these king tides. And it might just look like a flooded street, and then, you know, when the tide goes out, the water will go away. But really, it's a lot more than that. We see water coming over that berm into the street. We see our stormwater manholes and curb inlets. So those stormwater pipes are getting infiltrated with that salt water, which will have an impact on those. And then we have a manhole right there. So our actual sanitary sewer system, if those manhole lids aren't tight, can become infiltrated with the seawater. So it's really an asset issue as well. So it's not just an inconvenience of maybe checking the tides before you go get your groceries. This is Tropical Storm Eta, just from a couple of years ago. These are both photos from Oldsmar that I was able to find online. And this was a very small storm. It stalled and it came in at a very high tide, as we all know. But this was not an Ian, right? This was a very small storm and it impacted a lot of our residents. 2 days after the storm, there were already about 1,000 NFIP claims put in, and there were a lot more by the end of it. And a lot of folks didn't have flood insurance as well. So this is something we need to start thinking about when we're having these really high tides and we have a smaller tropical event, and then we have rain on top of that. So we have this kind of compounding impact. So it's really important that we look at all the data and look at the assets that we have and the infrastructure and the codes and the policies and all the things that we have to try to build for the future. These are just a couple more pictures of Eta. Okay, it's stuck. There we go. So here's the, I'm sorry? Okay. So here are the types of flood data. As I mentioned, the precipitation flood maps are going to be different from your coastal flood maps. So these coastal flood maps come from FEMA, and then also our vulnerability assessment. And I'll talk a little bit more about the data that went into the vulnerability assessment. But basically, you have your probabilistic storm surge models. So that 1% annual chance storm surge event. What does it look like when it pushes in? How high are those waves? And then the Pinellas County Vulnerability Assessment as well did that. And then the non-tidal stuff is our ICPR models. You're working on your stormwater master plan now. You have an Oldsmar watershed management plan. That's a different type of modeling, and that's looking at the different precipitation and what happens when it rains based on how much it rains. You know, your standard 1% annual chance storm is 12 inches over 24 hours. So that's modeled, and that's your 100-year floodplain. And of course, our stormwater master plan and our watershed management plans in the county also have those. So the vulnerability assessment, like I said, we kicked it off in 2018, and we adopted it in 2021. And we looked at intermediate, low, intermediate, and high for the sea level rise scenarios. And you've all, I didn't put the picture in here because you've all seen it, the sea level rise curves that curve up on the graph. So we looked at 3 different scenarios. If we're on this high trend, that's like your worst case scenario for the sea level rise. If you're on this intermediate low, you're kind of on the low end of the spectrum of what may happen based on the predictions for how quickly the sea level will rise. We looked at the current conditions, 2040, 2070, and 2100. So when we did the tidal inundation, we looked at different hours per year. So 1 hour per year would be your king tide. It comes in, it's very high, maybe for 30 minutes, but it only happens a couple times a year, down to your mean high water. This is every day, a couple times a day, mean high water. And then we put storm surge on top of that. So our antecedent condition is the sea level rise, and then we put the storm surge on top of that. So we looked at the 25, 50, 100, 250 and 500 year storm events from storm surge, and those are all overlaid on each one of those scenarios of sea level rise. So there's terabytes of data, and I just wanted to make sure you all knew all the data that we have, because it's really amazing data and it's available to you. So take it, use it, let's not redo it. So I did a quick comparison table here so you could see the difference between our storm surge modeling and the FEMA storm surge modeling. The FEMA maps that are in effect now, they were kicked off in 2012, so all the data that went into those probability models were from 2012, and it was also older LiDAR from when they mapped out the actual floodplain delineation. So you do the model, you figure out how high the water is, and then you map it out. And it's a depth grid that they'll convert to an elevation. Our vulnerability assessment used data from 2018 on, so there's several years there of climatic data that's not included in the FEMA study. And then we use also a different model. It's a good model, and it's very similar to FEMA's model. It's just a little bit more robust. And that was mapped out on the 2017 LiDAR, which is your terrain data. So here's the water, what's the depth once you map it out on the LiDAR. So we got this data in, and we compared it to the previous flood insurance rate map. And we found that our study was about a foot higher across the county than the previous firm, which is the same elevation that we've been building to because we had 1 foot of freeboard at least. So that checked out. And then we looked at the current conditions. So here's some of the sea level rise inundation, and back to that same picture I showed you before. You can see that the map showing where the flooding is taking place is actually realistic to that king tide that's happening. Okay, so just some uses for the data. So obviously the point of these vulnerability assessments is to look at the risk, look at your assets, and look at what the impact on those assets is so that you can plan for the future. And when you replace something, for example, a bridge, if in the future the water will be here and the impact will be here, and it's going to cost this much in O&M if you don't build it to there versus if you just spend the money now and build it to there. So you got to do your cost benefit analysis, but basically life expectancy of the asset, impact due to sea level rise or storm surge, and how important is that asset? What's the impact if it's not working? So we look at all of these things. We have our depth damage functions, and then you'll end up with a project list that will be prioritized. And you all have a phase 1, as we do, of the vulnerability assessment, and we're all going for phase 2 now to make sure we meet all the legislative requirements. What we have done is we've developed a flood resiliency tool, which we use for our capital planning. So our capital projects will go through this tool, basically like the bridge. So you put the bridge into this tool, take a look at what its flood risk is. The next page looks like this. Tells you what those flood risks are based on all of the data. And then the last step is to give you some recommendations. And then, of course, you'll come up with usually 3 scenarios, your best, mid, worst case scenario with your cost-benefit analysis to decide which level you want to build to based on the data. So capital planning is a good use for the data. We also use it with our watershed management plans. So our new scopes for our watershed management plans, we're using those tidal conditions, not the storm surge. We're using those tidal conditions. So the future mean high water, for example, would be that tailwater condition for the model. So it's raining, and that outfall of the water, there's going to be some water level there. And that water level is sort of the driving condition that we call the tailwater. So those boundaries, we're using some of the data from the vulnerability assessment now. In 2040, what's the mean high water look like? Okay, now what do our floodplains look like based on that versus the current tailwater? So you could use it for that too. And then when we brought this to our board, we gave them kind of 3 options to think about. If they did nothing, we would have a lot of areas that would be building much lower than they had for the past, 40 years, and other areas that would be building higher, like here, by a couple of feet. And then hold the line, we said, well, based on that analysis we did where our study is about a foot higher across the county, and that's basically equivalent to the FEMA +1. So hold the line was, let's go with FEMA plus the required freeboard or the vulnerability assessment base flood elevation. So at least we know we're using the best available data for that 100-year flood elevation. And then we said, or we can integrate that new data, be a little bit proactive. And since we have a base flood elevation, which is a newer study, more robust study, we can use the vulnerability assessment flood elevation or FEMA's, whichever is higher. Then we put the freeboard on top of that. Other options were to look at the future condition, 2070 100-year storm. You build it today, it should be there in 50 years, so we should build to that elevation. Or use a larger storm. So Harvey, of course, was the 500 or 1,000-year storm. So let's look at this 500-year map and use that elevation instead. So a lot of options. They went with hold the line. No, they went with integrate new data, number 3, hire the 2 BFEs plus freeboard. So the county, City of Clearwater, Bel Air Shore, and there may be another one, have all adopted that same thing. So next steps is bringing that up to meet the legislation. And this is I stole this one from one of our legal folks. This is sort of a compilation of slides from different staff from the county that I put together for you to try to consolidate everything. So we are going to be looking at the critical assets as they're defined. We also need to take a look at intermediate high and some of the other, we got the same planning horizon. So we just have a couple of things that we need to do, and then we need to update our project list. And it sounds like you guys are in a similar spot with updating yours. I would just encourage you to use data that exists rather than pay our consultants to do the same thing twice. Okay, so we're talking about rerunning the surge model. That's up for debate right now. And then we're gonna look at that intermediate high and do all the projects. Now your maps. So this map is a comparison of the current FEMA firm and the vulnerability assessment. The red areas are higher on the county study. The blue areas are higher on the FEMA study. The green areas are also higher, but less higher. So you got 1 to 2 feet of FEMA being higher than the county in the greens. And then you've got 3 or more feet, actually it's probably 4 or more feet in those blue areas. So FEMA's higher where it's blue and green. Where it's red, the county's data is higher. And the reason for that is, and I'll come back to this, but let me just show you the reason. So here's your FEMA map. At the Lake Tarpon outfall weir, there's a weir. At that weir, which is at about 8 feet, on the lake side, the FEMA BFE is 6 because it's based on those rainfall models, so it's a precipitation-based floodplain. On the south side, on the bay side, it's 11. So it goes from 11 to 6 at that weir. The county study allowed the waves to propagate over the weir. So we have these high waves, and the FEMA model kind of acts like a wall. So it just, I'm not sure with their modeling why they didn't let it propagate over or if it didn't have an impact. Our model, it lets those waves go up the canal, which is why you see the red, because that red is all connected by pipes to that outfall canal. And the pipes are also included in our model too. So all those pipes are in there. But this is basically the comparison of your 100-year to your 100-year. Same storm. Any questions about this map?
I don't have any questions. Anyone have any questions?
It looks like, so some of this red, where you can kind of, we know Curlew Road and Tampa Road
Mm-hmm.
and the intersection there and some of this like red part, that's not necessarily incorporated Oldsmar. This is Oldsmar 34677 by zip code, correct?
Okay. Well, the gray, there's like a gray shading that I tried to put over everything that was not the city. I
Okay.
believe the
Okay.
city
That
just,
helps, yeah.
no
So-
shading
so
covering the city. Everything that's gray is
unincorporated
not you
Pinellas
guys.
County. Okay,
Yeah.
got it, thank you.
Some of it's unincorporated, then you see, Safety Harbor down there is all grayed out.
Yeah.
So I tried to gray out everything that you don't need to look at. So if you were to follow suit with the county, you really wouldn't have BFEs that are higher in developable spaces, because those red areas tend to be in those wetland areas.
Yeah.
The 2070 doesn't look like that, it looks a little bit different.
Okay.
So this is your depth. So what you were looking at below is just the difference in flood elevations between FEMA's and ours. And this one is looking at the actual depth. So this is the Pinellas County depth of the 100-year current conditions. So you can see it's pretty shallow up in those areas where it was red. So, only a couple of feet at most. And then this is if it clicks, this is the 2070. So you see the blue extend further inland, and you see some of the darker purple gets a little bit darker. So you're looking at higher elevations. But those neighborhoods that you have on the north side there, like north of Forest Lakes, I think it is, you can see some of the blue. Most of it is isolated to the roadways, and the blues that are on top of the neighborhood itself is in the lighter colors, so it'd be less than 2 feet of depth. So some of those homes just innately might already be up. You'd have to look at elevation certificates, but they may already be higher than that. But this would be if you went with, the 2070. If you're gonna have somebody build a house today, you want it to be there in 2070, then that would be a reasonable elevation to select.
So this is, just to clarify, this is projections for 2070 on a 100-year storm event, correct?
Based on an intermediate sea level rise. I didn't mention that. So,
Intermediate sea
not the low, not the high, middle of the road, intermediate. So, here are our projections for sea level rise, are somewhere between here and here. Let's just kind of look at the middle for 2070, not even 2100. Let's just look for 2070, and that's what these are. But these are in depth, because this is that depth grid before they converted it to an elevation.
And so then those numbers are your flood amount over
Over the land.
Okay.
Right. So this would be,
Not from sea level?
no, this is from the ground, which currently the datum is NABD. So all this data
This
is in
water on
NABD.
top of, at the ground.
Water on top of the ground.
Okay.
I think that it's easier to understand the depth. You're
Yeah.
walking through 8 feet of water, or you're walking through 2 feet of water.
Sure.
So you can see, obviously, the ones down on, Bay Shore, those are the darker purples. You're sitting at 8 or 9 feet deep at least over there. But as you work further north into the watershed and away from the coast, the blues get lighter. So it's the depth gets lower.
For public edification, can you help us understand what a 100-year flood event
Yes.
is? Because some people don't get.
So it's not really a 100-year
Yeah.
flood. It's every single year there is a 1% chance that that particular flood will happen.
Thank you.
Okay, and then this is a compilation of the current conditions, the 2040, 2070, and 2100, intermediate sea level rise again, storm surge for the 100-year / 1% annual chance storm surge event. So you can see the purple is current conditions 100-year, and then as it turns into the purple color, we're moving into 2040, and then those reds are 2070, and then it goes even further out for 2100. So there's a whole pile of data to be sifted through and evaluated. If we were to, use this particular thing for capital planning, what does that look like? If we use this particular thing for maybe even a optional design flood elevation, but you would need to check building heights with your zoning, right? So there's a lot of things to look at, which is why I think Felicia's recommending you all adopt this so that you have the data, but you're using it as a planning tool. And then should you decide to do something else with it, like adopt, update your floodplain ordinance, for example, then you could do that at that time after it's been evaluated. And of course, why plan for that? It's kind of common sense. We have a lot of coastline, we have a lot of residents, we're already seeing blue sky flooding, and we got a plan now for our future. And that's what I have Felicia asked me to try to keep it concise and simple. There's a lot of data, though.
One more thing, just to kind of piggyback off of Councilmember Gannon. So we kind of elaborated on what defines a 100-year event, but what qualifies it? Is that like, what is the aspects of the storm? Is it a certain amount of rainfall, wind, all that together?
Yes.
Speculation.
So for the precipitation-based models, yes, we have these, what we call design storms. So 12 inches in 24 hours is the 1% annual chance precipitation that gets modeled, and then the results of that model get mapped. So you put in all your assets, you put in your ground cover, you put in all the pieces of the puzzle, you run your model. What it spits out is your flood elevations for your little catchment areas that are all connected by some sort of connection, a pipe, a weir, a channel, whatever. And then you take those elevations and now you map them over that digital terrain data to get your floodplain boundaries. So yes, we have prescribed storms. However, there's something called Atlas 14, which has a broader array of storms. So in a lot of cases, we'll look at critical duration. For example, Brooker Creek and Anclote River watersheds are very large, and it's usually several days later by the time the flooding occurs downstream. So it's not appropriate to use a 24-hour storm in those watersheds necessarily. Your more flashy urban ones where, it rains and the water goes out fast, maybe the 24-hour storm's not appropriate there either. It should be a 6-hour storm. So we'll look at critical duration. What are the flood elevations based on which design storm we put in? That's the rainfall. The probability part of the storm surge, the vulnerability assessment used NASHM, and the FEMA one uses JPMOS. They're probability models that look at all the different tracks of the hurricanes. They come up with a statistical analysis of what a 1% annual storm surge would look like, or 25-year or whatever one it is.
Okay, tag me. Tag me. Okay, so
Keep it coming.
people may not have heard recently, but people are hearing more of is this phrase blue sky flooding.
Yes.
Right? So I know what that is, but can you help
Absolutely.
the public understand what that means?
So these are basically astronomical tides, and they're called spring tides, perigean tides, king tides, blue sky flooding, nuisance flooding. I mean, there are a lot of synonymous terms for the event that takes place. And our low-lying areas are obviously more prone to this. So there will be a point in time, if we're not raising things and things like that, that we're gonna have to check tide charts before we decide to drive through the water. In the Keys, folks are already having to wash the undercarriages of their cars when they get home because they have to drive through flooded roads. And the Keys actually has a plan to abandon certain roads.
So even though the sky is blue,
Even though it's not raining,
it's not raining,
but the tide is really, really high and it comes back up through the pipes.
like
And-
that picture you showed.
Correct, like the picture. And, one mitigation strategy for that might be to do the check valves so that the water can only go out but not come in. The problem with that is you create these little micro watersheds. So if your seawalls are higher than the houses and it rains and the water can't get out because you have this check valve on there, then that water is going to rise until it can get out over the seawall. So you have to have that storage, like compensating storage or compensatory excavation.
Thank you for explaining that.
Okay, that was my
That's
last one.
perfect.
Are you good, Andrew?
I'm good.
All right, we'll send it up.
Nothing from me.
Thank
I
you,
know that
guys.
was a lot of
We had like a thing
information,
going.
so
Great presentation, though. Thank you so
Data,
much.
data.
I'm glad,
really-
and if you have questions, just let me know.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you all for having me.
Yes. All right, Felicia, you want to keep going?
Need
a motion.
Yep. I'm going to read the motion, because Felicia said it's going to change. The motion that is recommended is to direct the city attorney to draft a resolution to adopt the Pinellas County Vulnerability Assessment as a planning tool, correct? I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is item 12.
Item number 12, approve a grant agreement LPA 0351 with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for the Oldsmar State Street Drainage Ditch Improvement Project. Last year, the Florida State Legislature appropriated $1 million for budget year 2022-23 to the City of Oldsmar for the State Street Drainage Ditch Improvement Project under statewide water quality restoration projects. This project will replace the existing ditch with a continuous box culvert. The area has a large ditch along the northeast side of the road. At present, the culverts under the driveways create constrictions which cause erosion of the open ditch segments. This will support the strategic priorities of maintaining existing infrastructure and enhance roadway safety for all modalities, including safe routes to school. Staff recommends approval.
Fantastic. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
How about a second? Any other discussion on this item?
This was actually mentioned in the survey responses. If you read all of that tiny font, somebody actually mentioned culverting, the State Street ditch. So I'm really excited about this
Yes, I know,
project.
I read that, it was in there. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 13.
Item number 13, request council approval of supplemental amendment number 1 to existing state-funded grant 415738-8-54-01/02 for the Douglas Road project from Commerce Boulevard to Stevens Avenue. The city has been appropriated 3 grants from the state legislature to fund the Douglas Road project. We're appropriated $1 million in 2019, $1.5 million in 2021, and $1 million in 2022. After the city received notification of the first grant, it was decided to phase the project into 2 phases. This grant agreement would be to amend the grant agreement to combine the first and the third grants and apply it to phase 1 of the project from Commerce to Stevens. Prior to the supplemental amendment, for the financial schedule consisted of $1 million state funds and $2.2 million in local funds. After this supplemental amendment is executed, the grant's financial schedule will consist of $2 million of state funds and $2,074,900 of local funds. The local funds have been programmed to use the federal ARPA American Rescue Plan Act funds. Phase 2 of the project from Stevens to Racetrack has a separate grant agreement that was approved in June 2022. City staff and the Florida Department of Transportation are reviewing and providing final comments on the 100% plans for both phases of the projects. The phases are anticipated to be advertised concurrently in late spring of 2023. I want to take the opportunity to thank Public Works Director Daniel Simpson. Weaving through the state requirements for 3 different grants on one project is challenging at best. So thank you, Daniel. Staff recommends approval.
Wonderful. I need a motion to approve.
Moved. Second.
Everybody wants.
I got three and wow, that was
Everybody's
great.
like,
Everyone's
Daniel.
excited. All right, any other discussion on this wonderful item?
Thank you, City Manager Donnelly, for thanking Daniel Simpson. And also a shout out to our administrative services team for keeping all of that straight in an accounting sense, because I just don't even know. I don't even know how you do this. This is 30 pages of 8-point font, Daniel. This is crazy. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to getting that whole road done. I mean, the first part is beautiful.
I want it done for Daniel's sake, too.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to keep up with. Thank you.
Councilmember Knapp, you have anything?
It's only one road.
I mentioned this or talked about it with the city manager earlier of in the agreement about the deadline to complete it. And we were just joking. It's like the clock's ticking. Now it's less than a year that we have to finish it. And it's like, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, Daniel.
Can't wait.
Any other comments? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Felicia. Wonderful job today. Next item on the agenda is our city clerk. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the council?
I do not.
Okay, well, welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Item 14 is council comments, and we're going to start out with Councilmember Buckman.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything this week. The only thing I'd want to say, and it's really an experience thing, and I don't know who has served as vice mayor before, but there's some confusion in the community after the last week. A lot of people calling me like, what happened? Why'd you get demoted? All this different stuff. This is just a process. This is part of our charter. This is just every year the position rotates. It's at the mayor's discretion, and it just rotates. That's all it is. There was nobody in trouble, and nobody got dinged for anything. So I just want to make sure that the public is aware of that. I think there was some confusion about that. Other than that, I was excited about the Oldsmar Cup. I'm a big horse racing fan. Unfortunately, I won a bid at the Mardi Gras event, so I'll be out on a fishing charter that day, so I will not be able to attend the Oldsmar Cup, but I may send my wife to represent a little bit. Other than that, I have nothing else, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Knapp.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Just wanted to echo Mayor Seidel's comments from earlier at the start of the meeting about Oldsmar Days. Thought it was a great weekend, a great event for our community. It was my first time getting to take my daughter out on some of the rides, so we had an absolute blast out there. Stormbringer always, of course, brings a crowd out. It was kind of a little bit of a lull mid-Sunday afternoon and then picked right back up. So always looking forward to those chamber events. They do a fantastic job, and sometimes their hard work goes unnoticed by most, but it's certainly appreciated for those in attendance. The other thing just wanted to touch on was the day after our last council meeting, I had a chance to, as well as Councilmember Buckman, we went to the Oldsmar Neighborhood Association meeting. And Vince Albanese is doing a great job with his team of volunteers over there. They touched on the walking school bus program, which Miss young little Eliza presented to us at a former meeting, and also touched on seeking out intersection painting as a project that they've been working on with the city manager. And then the other one is talking about placemaking or coming up with names, something other than TCCN or the CRA, you know, to start really kind of giving a sense of place to downtown Oldsmar instead of just calling it downtown Oldsmar. So I wanted to give a shout out to Vince and all his team. It was a really good, positive meeting, and looking forward to what they produce for us in the future. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Graber.
Thank you, Mayor. I also don't have too much other than to say congratulations, Kristen. Welcome aboard. You brave soul brought your children into the council chambers, and they did a wonderful job. Trust me, I'm sure Councilmember Gannon would echo this.
Amen.
That was something I would likely not see if my children were here. I know I mentioned it last meeting. Our son turned 5, but I also want to mention it's my son's birthday, my sister's birthday, my brother's birthday, my niece's birthday, one of my best friends in the world's birthday, and my other niece's birthday, all between the 26th until April 10th. I'm not making it up, so happy birthday to all of them, but I can knock most of that out, and I don't remember that as we head out through the year. But beyond that, good, or have a wonderful holiday weekend, everyone, if you're celebrating. But that's all I had, Mayor. Thanks so much.
All right. That's a lot of cake you got to eat. All right. Next is Councilmember Gannon.
Mayor, yeah, I also had a very wonderful time at Oldsmar Days and Nights. There were so many moving parts, and it was a combination of everything from the car show to the bands, all the vendors, the volunteers. The kids, they just love the rides. I mean, it's so much fun to watch the joy and delight. Even the tiny little rides to that flying thing where you lay down. I can't even, the older kids love that one, and I'm just terrified. But it was a fantastic event. I had a wonderful time volunteering with our fellow council members and our staff. And Ms. Garcia, it was nice to see you there as well, and to, especially tonight, to see your family again. So thank you for being here, and congratulations. My mom also had a wonderful time. Sean had a great time volunteering at the event. So thank you to the Chamber for continuing to work hard and putting on that event that looks like we're putting it on, but we're not. It's always draws people from the city and from outside the city too. So I am very grateful as well for the egg extravaganza. You see what I did there? The Easter egg extravaganza is I think one of the largest scale events that is over the most quickly. Chip had to leave already, but that event is insane. It's insane. There are so many kids there and so many families there and so many eggs that are gone in so few moments. It's a colossal undertaking, and I appreciate that we continue to put it on as a city every year. In that same vein, very happy holidays to everyone who celebrates over the weekend. Happy Passover to those who celebrate during the week. And I am looking forward to Chalk the Park and actually annual recycling day. A lot of people don't realize this event's happening until the day has come or it's already passed, but it's actually a really cool opportunity to shred your old tax returns, your medication records. 5 boxes is a lot of boxes of paper. I always go through my cabinets, but it's free. It's free. You don't have to take it anywhere. It's free. And it protects your identity. And let's face it, we're all getting 10 spam calls every day from people who have our phone number, people who have our email address. We don't need to provide them any other information. So definitely encourage folks to come out and shred their stuff. Last thing, Leadership Pinellas applications for class of 2024 are open at leadershippinellas.com. And I know there's 2 council members up here who haven't done Leadership Pinellas. If you're interested, let me know. But also Leadership Pinellas is open to all of our department heads, all of our residents, city staff. It's open to anyone you know, any business owner. Yes, I see you smiling, Tom. I am plugging it. I am a board of directors member, and I'm also currently an officer. I'm a secretary for Leadership Pinellas. So if you have any questions, it's a great way to get to know more about our county. I know Andrew Knapp actually is an alumni, as is our mayor and our city manager, a couple of our department heads. Tom, are you a graduate of Leadership Pinellas? Probably not much about Pinellas, Tom doesn't know. But in any event, North Pinellas Day is coming up on April 12th, and I've been working with folks over in Dunedin and Tarpon and our board to put on that day since the untimely passing of our board member and longtime advocate, Wendy Barmore. And so the class of 2023 will be coming to Oldsmar to complete part of that day regarding business development, industry, and economic impact. And in that effort, I will be assisted by the lovely folks at a little company you may have heard of called Microlumen, as well as
What a coincidence.
our city manager, Felicia Donnelly, who has given a couple of presentations about the economic impact of the industrial corridor north of Tampa Road. So that will be wonderful. And then they're actually heading over to do zip lining. They're going to make it this time because we cut out a couple things from last year. The schedule was a little packed. Over to Empower Adventure to do the zip lining. So it'll be a fantastic day on April 12th. If you want to make an appearance, let me know. That's all I got.
Right. Sounds good.
Or you could stop by Microlumen.
Yeah,
They have pizza, I'm told.
Zip line last year ran short.
Will be pizza.
Well, there
People were
was-
disappointed.
Well, there were so many crazy things that happened last year, like
Yeah.
the bus was missing in action and
Yeah, the bus took forever to pick us up in Tarpon, remember?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
a
was
boat ride,
Yeah, we
he
were
got
waiting.
lost.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
year we're gonna
They
do
ran
the
away.
the
Thank
Tarpon
you.
Springs boat ride will be first thing at like 8 a.m. So
Yeah.
we'll get that out of the way. Then they're gonna head over to
And
Dunedin.
thank you both for taking that on. I just got so much on my plate. I really appreciate it. With Wendy being gone, I was devastated with that. So thank you for stepping up, both of you, for handling that day. Thank you.
And Felicia,
Oh, and Felicia.
she was the
Well,
one who
she
helped me
always does it.
coordinate.
She's always
I had to
there.
put on my LP hat. I wrote her an email. City Manager Donnelly.
So as I mentioned, when Paula was here, I went to Tallahassee. I left Monday morning, and RJ, our lobbyist, took us on a tour. We met with Ed Hooper's team, and then we met with Adam Anderson's team. We had personal meetings with both of them about our appropriations that we're trying to get, and it went really, really well. And then, as Paula said, we were in the House, and we were recognized by the House Representative Adam Anderson, and it was just a really special moment. Not only for me but for Paula, because that's the first time we were ever recognized at the House at the Capitol. And then we got a little tour. She went upstairs to the 22nd floor. She got to see that. But I think just the experience of her being able to go to those meetings, if you haven't done that, it was just a really neat experience for both of us to be involved. And then I was really involved with the Florida League of Cities. I met with them this morning before I drove back. That was the kickoff of the legislative week. This is the 5th week, so we're trying to hone in on some of the bills that are being passed. And the Suncoast League of Cities went in as a force to try to talk to the legislators on some of the bills that they're trying to pass. But all in all, it was a short, because of the council meeting tonight, I didn't want to miss this, but it was a great event. We went to a restaurant last night and I met the entire Florida League staff. They were all there. It worked out great, so I got to spend time with everybody up there and meet a lot of people. So that was a great event.
Is it weird, Mayor, when okay, I've been watching the legislative tracker that the League of Cities sends out, right? And sometimes I'm like, oh man, I see some bills on there that aren't great for local preemption and some home rule kind of
It's
infringements.
really, yeah.
But then I get nervous because I see some of it coming from our local delegation, and then I'm like, how does that work? You go up there and you're like, what's up?
I know.
What you guys doing?
So when I didn't have enough time to do that, usually when I go up for the 4 or 5 days, I'll have more time to do that. But this time I was more concerned about our city.
Yeah.
I was trying to get those appropriation grant money that we're trying to get for infrastructure projects. So that was my really core. I went to one meeting with the Suncoast League of Cities where they were going after that stuff. But I've done that as being president of the Suncoast League of Cities, so I didn't really want to go there this time. Because my goal was the city of Oldsmar. You know, this is where we're headed in our future for our city. This is what we want for our residents. This is what we're doing. But Katie, to your question, it's horrible. So I'm going to give you one example. I didn't really want to talk about it. I was telling Felicia today. So when Paul and I got there, outside of the house of the Capitol, right in front of the old Capitol Museum, there was probably 100 people just chanting the abortion bill. And what happened was they got into the House, they got into the Senate, and the Senate chair had to stop the meeting because they were so loud about the abortion bill, against it. And it was a nonstop yelling and screaming the whole time. And now I've been there, this is my 9th year, I've never seen it like this. Never. The conflict like that. I've never seen the conflict. And they shut down the Senate, and then we went to lunch and we came back and they just got back into the Senate. They started the meeting again, and that's when Ed came out and we got to speak with Ed Hooper. And he was just devastated. He said that's just uncalled for what happened in that session when they had the chairman had to shut it down, the House Speaker, the Senate Speaker. So it was a unique, short travel experience for Paula and I. I'm glad she went, but it was different. It was really different this year than all the years I've gone. Never seen it like this. So there's a lot of things changing in our world right now, and you can only do so much. With that, I wanted to mention the egg extravaganza. I was there in the morning. I mean, it was the young it was insane, and I just wanted to say to city staff this year, the way you designed it with the slide, and you had the popcorn people here from Oldsmar, and you had food trucks. I think it was really a great family event. It really was special for all the children. You want to say something?
I was told that we had over 18,000 eggs.
Oh, man.
Who filled 18,000 eggs? Was it in partnership with Bayside Community Church? Thank goodness. Oh, my
The
word.
Bayside Community Church did
They
amazing. Were you
did.
there? I didn't see you there.
Barely, for a half second. When you have a 5 and a 6-year-old, meltdowns can turn into a trip home very quickly.
Okay, because I was looking for everybody. Especially, I thought you were going to bring your kids, Steve, for sure.
When you have a 5 and a 6-year-old, meltdowns can lead to a trip home very quickly.
Dirty, man.
But it was and the one little girl, I felt so bad. She had this little basket.
Yeah.
Her parents brought her this little basket, and she could only get 3 eggs in there. And the girl next to her had like a basket full of eggs, and she's like, "Mommy, why does she have more eggs?" You know, because the mother's
It
like,
gets hard because once you
Yeah.
get up to the larger the older kid division, then you can't go to the little kid division area, and that's when you really get creamed when you're a little kid because you're not getting much.
The other thing I wanted to mention was the golden ticket idea. That was just stellar. The families, the kids were just, I got a golden ticket. I mean, Willy Wonka.
That was in the movie.
Okay, with that, in the Oldsmar Cup, I'll be there on Saturday. I talked to my daughter after my meeting with you, Felicia and Kristen. I talked to and I'm all set, so I'll be there on Saturday for the Cup. And then last, happy Passover, happy Easter, everybody. It's a special holiday. I'm looking forward to spending some time with my 3 grandsons this weekend, and that's all I have. You have anything else you'd like to say, Felicia? Okay. All right, then item 15, approve the tentative agenda for the April 18th, 2023 council meeting. Does anyone wish to pull anything or add anything to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to add.
Okay, we're adding something.
A couple meetings ago, you asked me to look into alternative volunteering, and I have ideas and concepts that I want to bring back to council to discuss.
All right, so we'll add that to the agenda. Is that okay? Absolutely.
Would be presentation of alternative volunteering.
Presentation of volunteering opportunities. It's opportunity one that I've kind of
Presentation
narrowed
of-
on. There are a couple other ones, but it's very interesting. I think it's going to go a long way. Felicia and I have talked about it. So
Would you like to make the motion then to amend?
I'd
the-
like to, add discussing volunteering opportunities to the April 18th, 2023 council meeting
Okay, I have a
agenda.
motion. How about a second?
Second.
That motion is just to add it?
Yeah, are you adding it or
Do a
moving to?
motion to
Do it all.
go ahead and approve the tentative agenda with that addition. That would be the easiest way to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the tentative agenda for the April 18th, 2023 council meeting, adding in volunteering opportunity discussion for that meeting.
Perfect. Second?
Second.
Nice. Any other discussion? We're good? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. Again, happy Easter. Meeting adjourned.